If you have to name like one or two things that you learn most from Nelson Mandela, what would it be?
Nelson Mandela never used the word I. He used we, but not the royal we, the collective we. When you grow up in a time of danger, to claim something great is to ask to be put in prison or to be shot. But it's also a sign of enormous humility.
If you work at a barber today and Donald Trump comes to your shop to cut his hair, what would you do? Welcome back, Weeboos, to the What Is Up Indonesia podcast. And today, as you can see, we're in a very different place.
Yes.
Right? Look at this blue, majestic curtain behind us. Looks very fancy table.
Very different.
Yes, very different.
But we still hold our mics.
Yes. yeah. No matter how fancy the place is, no mic stands. Okay? So today, of course, we have a very special guest. Mm-hmm. Yes. Please welcome all the way from South Africa, Pa Ebrahim Rasool.
Pa Ebrahim is actually our second international guest, right?
Oh, second.
Yes. So thank you so much for saying yes to this podcast. I mean, shout out to Pa Dino for vouching and for bridging this. But we're so excited to have this conversation.
Yes.
So
I want to learn a lot.
Yeah.
I want to learn a lot. But before we start, maybe for our viewers who might be unfamiliar with you and South Africa and your work, can you please tell us just a bit about your background, your fight against the apartheid, and meeting Nelson Mandela in prison? Because that's a thing that everybody wants to know.
Sure. I think I want to start a bit further away.
Oh,
all right.
I like it. Okay.
Because it was more than 3 centuries ago, 300 years ago, that my ancestors were brought on ships from Indonesia.
Wait, what?
He has like Indonesian ancestry apparently. Like
I'm glad I can shock you.
I was really shocked.
Because the Dutch who colonized Indonesia also colonized South Africa.
Yeah.
And when my ancestors were troublesome here, they fought colonialism here. They were put on ships and exiled to Cape Town.
Oh, wow. Okay,
and when the Dutch needed skilled labor, they came back to Indonesia and fetched the other half of my family and brought them there as artisan slaves.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So up till now, my family has a very Javanese surname. My mother's side, they are the Slamans.
Oh, Slamans.
The Slamans.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's very Javanese, yes.
And they kept Islam alive. They kept the culture alive. And we are today, under apartheid, we were called the Cape Malays.
Oh, the Cape Malays. Okay, wow.
We still use lots of Bahasa language.
Really?
For us, a banana is pisang.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I love pisang.
When we go to pray, we sumbang. When we take wudu, we take abdas.
Oh, wow, this is very, very Indonesian words, yes.
And when we put on sandals, we put on kaparangs.
So this is, wow, you have a very long history.
And we don't have just Eid, we have labarang.
Wow.
And when we congratulate you, we say slamat.
Slamat.
And so that is who I am. So I am not simply an international guest. I am a child who came home.
Wow.
Wow. That's bars. That's bars.
Yeah.
And I am simply, when I was in South Africa, I was simply doing what was in the DNA of my ancestors. When you see injustice, you fight it. And so Nelson Mandela was very surprised when he was taken to Robben Island. Everyone thought, here's the first political prisoner on Robben Island.
Right.
And when he came there, he saw the qabr. He saw the grave of an Indonesian Sheikh Matura.
Wow.
Who was taken in exile from Indonesia, exiled in Cape Town. He continued his fight. And then they put him on Robben Island.
Oh, wow. I did not know any of this. Damn.
The first Quran in South Africa was written from the memory of Tuan Guru. Qadi Abdul Salam. He memorized the Quran, Islam was banned, and he secretly wrote the whole Quran. And when you come to South Africa, and you must come to Cape Town because you have family there, you will see this Quran in the Owal Masjid, the mosque in Cape Town that is the oldest one, and it is still there.
Wow.
And then we will take you to the grave of Sheikh Yusuf of Makassar, because there's not just a Makassar here in South Sulawesi.
Okay.
In Indonesia, there's also a Makassar in Cape Town.
Oh, wow.
And part of the great joy of spending time with SBY was the fact that he came to Cape Town to put down the founding contribution to an Indonesian built mosque near the grave of Sheikh Yusuf in Makassar. So that is, I'm telling you this because I think it will be fascinating for your audience.
Absolutely,
that this is a part of their history that they don't understand, that there are Malays in Cape Town who trace their roots to Indonesia.
No, this is very fascinating. I mean, in history, in our Indonesian history, when we learn from school, of course we learn about the Dutch coming, but people forget who else the Dutch colonized. And there's that string that connects all of us, where there's the South Africans and everybody else. And it makes sense that...
Yeah, the anti-colonialism, like brotherhood, sisterhood, ties, basically.
We have a similar stamp in Cape Town that you have here in Indonesia. You know Fort Rotterdam.
Yeah, I know Fort Rotterdam, yeah.
It is the typical Dutch castle,
Dutch castle
and prison.
Yeah. We have
that looks like a tortoise.
Yeah.
We have an exact replica in Cape Town. Wow. The castle in Cape Town. Okay. And that was where the dungeons were, that they also locked up the troublesome Malays. So that is it. And so when you look at the first real anti-colonial fighters in South Africa, were not just your indigenous people, it was also your Malays.
There were Indonesians there
and
too.
So that's what takes us into the struggle against apartheid, because Muslims and Malays in South Africa did not just face racism because we were brown.
Right.
We also faced Islamophobia because our religion was banned.
Right.
And so we had to fight in multiple ways against what was just an apartheid monster.
Wow. I mean, look, this is all very, very fascinating. And the fact that, people know about the name, of course, Nelson Mandela, but the fact that there's a deeper side to it, and there's a many multi-layered complex story.
And the connection to Indonesia too.
Yes. And that's very, very interesting for us.
So I'm not just wearing this batik because it looks nice.
It is nice.
I'm wearing it as a cultural appropriation of my own roots.
Right. So can you maybe talk a little bit more about like your fight against the apartheid and how you came into acquaintance with Nelson Mandela?
So in South Africa, you don't plan your life to look for trouble.
Yeah.
But when there's apartheid, trouble looks for you.
Okay.
And when I went to high school, and we called it Standard 6 at that time.
Okay.
High school started. That was in 1976, which was the year of the student uprisings. That's the year I was just wanting to study. I wanted to be a good student, bring good grades home and so forth. But instead, I first tasted tear gas in that year, rubber bullets, police whips. And then I knew high school was not going to be easy. That I'm going to do more than study math and science and language and so forth. That I'm also going to have to understand politics. Because the injustice is just in your face. It was a white skin, wearing a police uniform, carrying repressive weapons, and they were going to defend the white state at all cost. And it was even going to be worse if they find out that you are Muslim, because apartheid was based on Christian nationalism.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So it's something that you don't understand it too much. But even in 1991, after Nelson Mandela was released, it was still apartheid. And when I had to take my daughter, who was just born in 1991, to register her, I was forced to register her as illegitimate because they didn't recognize the Muslim marriage.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That was the humiliation that you live as a black and Muslim, a South African under apartheid. And so trouble looks for you at every turn. If you want to go swim, you must know which beach, because not all the best beaches are always for whites. If you want to go and post a letter, you had to know which entrance, because one entrance was for whites and one entrance was for blacks. And if you go into the wrong one, you offend the whites and they jail you. And so that was what we were facing. And so by 1980, I was a student leader. And we led a 12-week school boycott. Because the infrastructure for blacks were inferior. The only reason they wanted you to go to education was for you to have enough education to go and work on the mines and on the farms and so forth. And if you wanted to aspire to anything more. And that's why I can't take it. We struggled hard to get an education, and I can't take it when my children or other youth are lazy for education, because what is a right for them was a privilege for us. They did everything to keep you out of school. We must do everything to keep our children in school. They loved it when you didn't study and failed.
Right.
Young people today, they don't understand that, because I don't see them necessarily with the same ambition to defy the odds and prove your oppressor wrong. So we led the school boycotts for better education. And I wanted to be a teacher because that was the best way that you could overcome the system that wanted to humiliate you.
Right.
And in my first, I only taught for 1 year, because halfway through that year, I was for the first time in prison with a state of emergency. When I came out, they sent me a telegram. I don't think you know what a telegram is. It's a small little note. You paid for every letter, and all it said to me was, your services as a teacher are no longer required. And they said, collect your last paycheck. When you come out of prison, collect it at the school. I went to the school, the principal gave me, and he said, we're very sorry, Mr. Rasool, we hope you can come back soon again. I said, sir, if I come back to this school, it will be as the Minister of Education. I did go back, but as the Minister of Health.
Okay. I mean, wow. I mean, that's a lot to take in. That's a lot to take in, and it's interesting because as Indonesians, we, especially when you talk about racism and systemic racism, we learn about the Americans, of course, but people forget that. I mean, this is not my joke. It's a joke from Trevor Noah, one of your greatest comedians. Trevor said that Americans think they have racism. South Africa perfected it.
Yeah.
Right? They made it like inside the system. And I read his book, Born a Crime, where because he was mixed, his mother was black, his father was a Swiss. That's why he says he's a Swiss chocolate. So he always says that, you're right, you can't even walk in this side of the street.
His father apparently loved dark chocolate.
Yeah, that too. And it's amazing how, like, you're right, we're always centered on the Americans and all that stuff, where you can learn about all this stuff from other parts of the world. And I want to talk about a lot of things, but speaking of America, that's my segue to America. I've heard recently you've had a bit of pit-pat with, it's huge, Trump, Mr. Ebrahim, I want you out of this country. You are the worst South African. But for people who don't know, he used to be the South African ambassador, right?
In the US.
In the US.
Yeah.
So you were in DC.
I was in DC.
Yeah, just like how Padino was also in DC.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
were you there together at no different times in DC?
No. He I think, became ambassador in 2010.
Yes. And
I became ambassador in 2010.
So you guys were together.
So we were together.
and
And
there
I
you
want
go.
to tell you something that Indonesians don't know about that man,
About Dino.
about Pak Dino.
Oh,
Let's
about
do it.
Dino. Okay, let's do it.
The point is, the two of us turned out to be the two most eloquent ambassadors in Washington. Whenever any function wanted to attract people, they got the South African and the Indonesian ambassador to come and speak there.
I see.
Because they could get a view from the South that you couldn't get. Everyone else was so busy licking the government's bum.
Right.
And they needed some people who had the diplomatic skills but could tell the truth. You see, diplomacy isn't about lying. It's about telling the truth gently.
Oh, that's a bar. Oh,
And that's what we did.
okay.
And so we went to the farms of great American actors like Robert Duvall together.
Right.
He was with me when we had to have the memorial service for Nelson Mandela. And we sat in the Washington National Cathedral, where all US presidents are either inaugurated or buried from.
Yeah.
They had that for Nelson Mandela. And we were there together. And Joe Biden was vice president and he sat there.
Yeah.
The whole cabinet was almost there. Half of Congress was there. And we were able to do great things in the USA. And so that's how, and they didn't know until 2012 that they were actually enjoying the company of two people of Indonesian origin. But my cover was blown
Oh, why? How come?
when Pak Dino invited me to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And I went there because he asked me. And when I came there, he handed me a award
Okay.
Okay.
in the name of President Yudhoyono.
Yeah.
And I was declared in 2012 to be the Indonesian Diasporian of the Year. And then everyone said, "Oh, is that your origins? We didn't know where your features came from." So he blew my cover.
Padino.
Padino. Padino is over there, by the way,
Yeah,
guys.
he's behind the camera.
He's just laughing right now.
Yeah.
So that's what Washington was. But it was an exciting period
Right.
because
So it was during the Obama presidency, right?
it was the Obama presidency.
Right.
Obama
Also lived in Indonesia when he was young. If people forget.
absolutely
People forgot that. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
He smoked some strange stuff here, no?
Yes, he did. I read his whole book. I did. Genes of My Father. You should read that book. It's an insane.
What's your highlight?
My highlight is his mom and dad used to have parties in Menteng, and he
Okay.
didn't know what was going on. And you should. It's crazy.
Okay.
So there will be Indonesian dancers coming to please the father who used to be an Indonesian general. Long story.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. Obama's Menteng stories are underrated.
Yeah.
By the way.
Obama's Menteng stories.
But can I please know, like, because recently it's been big news. You and Trump. Can I?
Yeah.
So were you kicked out of the U.S.? Did Trump say leave? Like what was it?
I heard it's actually because of social media too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's a social media thing.
What happened?
No, so I knew Trump in 2012.
Okay.
I met him at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh.
And it was the great fundraising event for the Red Cross Society.
Okay.
And it was going to be focused on Africa, so they invited me as the ambassador.
Okay.
So I went there and Trump was over the top at Mar-a-Lago. They had zebras that they brought in, giraffes, African monkeys.
What?
When we left, they all gave us a PlayStation 5 and I flew on the Trump jet. So that, and when and I was asked to be a speaker. And when I finished speaking, he came up to says, "You want to make a damn fine speech. I'm going to open the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. I want you to write the speech." So I thought, how do I get out of this? I said, Mr. Trump, people say no one can write a speech for you. Say, that's also right. So that was my encounter with Trump at
I
Mar-a-Lago.
see.
Oh.
Then in 2024, December, I was asked by our president to go back.
Okay.
Because Trump was now in power. He was hating on South Africa.
Yeah.
They
With the terrorists.
They wanted us to withdraw our case against Israel at the ICJ. They wanted us to get out of BRICS if we wanted to keep American trade. And they wanted us to change our black economic empowerment policies. And especially because Elon Musk wanted the contract for Starlink. And we said, but take black partners as well. And all of those. So they didn't want any of that. So it was very difficult. Fortunately, Joe Biden, who was sitting next to me at the Mandela Memorial Service in 2013, he heard the rumor that Trump was not going to credential me when he comes into power. So 3 days before Joe Biden's term ends, he invites me to the White House and credentials me.
Okay.
And there's fanfare. It's the first I didn't see it like that. Trumpets were blowing. The South African flag was raised. And they credentialed me and all of those kind of things. And that, unfortunately, made Trump even more angry. His people promised that they will get rid of me. So I knew I had a very short period.
Okay.
But in that short period, I went into the offices of 22 senators and congresspeople, put South Africa's case, and did it as eloquently as what I could. And every week we were in different think tanks. Sundays I was invited to churches to speak and make the South African case and so forth. But it didn't stop. On the first night, Trump took away all our aid.
I see.
By February, white Afrikaners came to visit him and he took away our trade and closed USAID and all of those kind of things and accused us of genocide against whites, taking white land and so forth. And obviously, an ambassador of a country cannot pretend just because he wants the president to like him. Cannot pretend that what the president is saying is true. And you have to push back to defend, because diplomacy is also about not just the interests of your country, but the dignity of your country as well. When lies are told about it, you've got to stand up. And I remembered the words of my father when I had a bit of a problem. And my father said, "You went to jail to speak the truth.
Yeah.
Why would you stop now?"
Ooh.
Interesting.
And those words kind of haunted me. And I thought, how do I tell the truth gently? And so I on a webinar with South Africa, and to explain to them why we lost our trade, why we lost our aid, why are these lies, why can't I said, I can't explain it. I think that there's a supremacist instinct at work. That was 7 seconds of a 2-hour webinar.
Right. They got clipped, huh?
But that thing got played. The next morning I woke up and I saw this, and I saw that it was an old rival of mine from Cape Town who was now the editor of Breitbart, which is the very right-wing news outlet in Washington.
Or Breitbart, Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon. But here was Joel Pollack, a South African that I defeated in the Western Cape election because he was the strategist for Tony Leon, the opposition leader in South Africa at that time. And he put that clip up. And just those 7 seconds, and I saw who we tagged in. Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and that was it. And I knew that they were now going to make this happen, but I felt proud. You almost have 200 ambassadors in Washington. One was heard in the White House. One hurt the White House. It was a badge of honor that someone like Trump could be hurt by 7 seconds of what I said, because those 7 seconds must have hit the button. And when I came back to Cape Town, thousands of people were at the airport. The police had to come. They had to organize at the airport a mini rally.
Oh, wow.
For me to speak
Okay.
to It was live on all the television stations because people felt someone stood up to the bully. And that for me is a badge of honor, because diplomacy is not about appeasement. Diplomacy is about advancing the values and the dignity of your country.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot to take in, sir.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean,
so I kind of want to take us now to Indonesia's context.
yeah.
I know that you just had like a talk and you've had conversation maybe with a couple of young Indonesians. Here in Indonesia right now, and I mean, me and Andovi can speak on this also, there's a lot of political tension. And a lot. And the young people are not happy. And I do want to speak about one running joke that is currently very prominent here in Indonesia, is that a lot of people are beginning to be very suspicious of activists and activism work, because they think that activism is just a pipeline to be a politician here in Indonesia right now. And I'm very curious to know what you think, because you have been on the both ends, right? You were outside the system, and then now you have also been inside the system. You have crossed that line also. Here in Indonesia, we have a lot of people have a lot of trust issues with people who once were an activist, like very outspoken, but now they've joined the cabinet, went inside the system, and perceived to be the very thing they used to go against. And so I'm just curious, what do you think happened to these people when they cross? Like, is that always a compromise, or is it just like the reality of governance?
I encountered government in two contexts. Under apartheid, the government was illegitimate because it repressed you and didn't give you a voice. And the only way was for the government to fall. There was no compromise with a government that was fundamentally illegitimate and fundamentally exclusive and fundamentally violent. So such a government often needs to be replaced. It can't be reformed.
Okay, yeah.
Then in South Africa, when Nelson Mandela became president, we got inclusion. Everyone had a vote. We had rights. And we had, most importantly, legitimacy that comes from consent. There was permission to rule even if you voted against the government. If you lost and your party didn't win, you try again.
Yep.
So then there was a period in which a legitimate government by consent who was voted in becomes illiberal. It stops listening.
Right.
It stops being held accountable. And it stops doing what must be done. Now that government is still legitimate. You still have to contest for power, but your means are different. It is not, as Malcolm X would say, by all means necessary. Even violence, protests, overthrow the government, because that's what you do with illegitimate governments that have no consent. But an illiberal government that has lost touch with the people and stopped delivering to the aspirations and the needs of the people, that government has consent because it was voted in. But its illiberality means that you need to have the right to protest it. You need to have the right to litigate it.
Okay.
You need to have the right to mobilize against it.
Right.
But most importantly, you need to maintain the right to replace it and to reform it and to beat it in an election. And so the tools are different. And so now the tools are not by all means necessary, but all of the above instruments of persuasion. And so the objective of power in a legitimate state is the legitimate of activism in a legitimate state is still power. You cannot say, I don't want the $1 trillion budget that the country has. I don't want to control the treasury. I don't want to control the Reserve Bank. I don't want to have the means for health services. I don't want. That is the job of permanent revolutionaries, Cold War warriors.
Okay.
I think what we need to do is to say, how do we direct all of these instruments, social media, conventional media, mobilization, protest where it is necessary, pressure on the government, and elections in order to bring about that change?
Wow, that is absolutely like very insightful.
Yeah, I like how you differentiate between the different types of government, right? There's the illegitimate and then there's the legitimate, but then it transformed into something that
Illiberal.
it's illiberal.
Yeah.
And how the strategy that we're supposed to enact is different. So another thing that I'm very curious is that, so let's say it's the legitimate government who has stopped listening and who has morphed into something else. You said that, okay, you need to use
All these
different means,
instruments.
all that instruments,
Yeah.
right? And one of them is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that means like people who want to push their agenda as activists, like it is okay, or it's not okay, but like one of the means is for them to infiltrate and go into the system as well, right? So
Infiltrate often means you must go in by the back door or by an open window.
contest,
You've got to contest.
right?
Because I think a lot of people get away with the idea that you must be inside to fight the system. If the system transforms you,
There
you
we
have
go.
failed. If you transform the system, you have succeeded.
Now the question,
So if the system now puts you in a fancy suit and gives you the big car and you now eat at the right tables and all of those, you can go to the restaurant, your family moves into a big house. The system has transformed you. You have not transformed the system. So that is the fundamental difference. And therefore it's not, you don't infiltrate it from the back door, because then the system will transform you. You will always be an imposter in that system.
interesting.
Whereas you've got to get in by the front door. You've got to say, I am here for the rights of my people.
And to do that, usually it's through elections. That's one
It's
of the mechanisms.
partially
One
through
of it, yeah,
elections,
yeah.
but it is partially also to enter the institutions that must be safeguarded.
So I think, so another discourse that are currently happening here in Indonesia and a lot of young people are talking about is that, is it possible to change the system from the inside? Like you mentioned, right? You said that if you change the system, you win. If the system change you, you lose. But is it possible for individuals to actually change the entrenched system? Like, is it possible for you to create change when the system itself is, a lot of people say, inherently are broken already?
I think the best you can achieve through that, from the inside perspective, is to preserve further erosion and the slide of institutions and democracy within.
Okay.
And so opposition parties are often inside, but their job is to oppose the excesses of the incumbents,
Right.
those who are in power. So you need an opposition.
Right.
If the opposition is not doing its job, or it is too weak, or it is being ignored, then it pushes the burden to those on the outside.
Right.
So the idea is not either or, either inside or outside.
It's
and.
yeah.
And so when I was opposition leader in the Western Cape, and I was the leader of the opposition, I often had an and strategy. I was inside, but I made sure that on a crucial day where we're discussing, that there were masses of people outside, because I needed the inside people to know that the unpopular things to them that I was saying is not my opinion. It reflects the thousands of people outside. So you never go unarmed into it, and your best armory is the mobilization of ordinary citizens. So politics then isn't the politics of the gentleman in the grand chamber. Politics is the murkiness of the people in the chamber speaking on behalf of the thousands of masses on the outside. So that the power you are speaking to knows and can see and has evidence of what you are mobilizing outside.
Wow. I mean, this is just, it's so insightful, because I do feel that in your particular context, in your explanation, that the opposition in our country is not even weak or not doing its job. In my opinion, there is no opposition. In my opinion, I can be completely wrong. So what happens if the opposition has formed into the government, whereas now people feel like, okay, if there's no opposition inside, so then should all the power and be the outside movement, right? How do you feel about that?
I think there is always the responsibility to speak truth to power. And therefore, if no one speaks truth in the chamber, if they are co-opted into the system, the responsibility shifts to civil society. When we had a corrupt president, suddenly the locus of power shifted from parliament and the cabinet. It shifted to the judiciary, who was activist. It shifted to the media, social and conventional, who were investigative. It shifted to civil society, who became mobilizational. But it never shifted to the domain of violence. In fact, what happened was we invented a term that we took from apartheid into that period. When I was leader of the opposition, we called it militant non-violence.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
Meaning,
Militant non-violence.
you never cross the line into violence because the state is legitimate.
Okay.
It doesn't deserve violence because that's what extremists do. For any excuse, they will use violence. We are not extremists. We are the mainstream. The extreme are the ones who monopolize power, who utilize the resources for themselves, who don't serve the people. They are the extremes, and they may be mainstreamed in parliament, but you are the representatives of mainstreamed opposition outside. And you've got to find ways to get that voice to be heard. And whatever platform emerges, social media, podcasts, conventional media, television stations, town hall meetings, rallies, those become your platforms from which, and you've got to do it imaginatively. Because you see, often the mainstream is boring, and that's why the extremes get the media.
Right. Yeah.
And we found out ways to make the mainstream militant. What we dress, the symbols we invoke, the way in which we march, not just, get thousands of people there, the songs that we sing, the concerts that we put up. We make the mainstream not boring, but vibrant, dynamic. And that is why we call it militant non-violence, because we express our anger in legitimate ways, but not just legitimate, creative and dynamic ways.
And in order to do that, you said that when the locusts of power shift to other things, one of the things you said is civil society. Right? And I do feel like the civil society has such an important thing to play, especially in Indonesia. And one of the creative ways to do it is through social media nowadays.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? So civil society, their platform is social media. However, the counter argument is that when the civil society tried to do it over social media, performative. This is just performative. You're just doing it for the clicks and the views and the ha-hi-ho, right? Which is weird because all Trump does now is social media. Open the Strait of Hormuz, whatever. Okay, I just love impersonating him. So what do you say to the counter argument and the criticism that says that, you know what, civil society, okay, you're doing it through social media.
And it's not just civil society, like regular citizens too.
Regular citizen. But social media is, it's not like back in the old days. It's not like back when you did it with Nelson. Like back in the old days, you guys didn't use social media.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you say to the critique nowadays that say
like,
that?
is it fair? Is there some truth to it? Or
Every generation uses the tools at its disposal. In our generation, it was absolutely critical that we must print pamphlets
Okay.
and go to the station in the morning at 6 o'clock when the workers go to work, and when they come to their factory, we give them pamphlets. On a Friday after Jumu'ah, we stand outside the mosque and we have volunteers giving out pamphlets. And to make our message, we spray painted on the walls, even though it was illegal, but we did that. We put up posters, even though it was going to be pulled down, but the act of pulling down showed how scared the state is. If the state is afraid of your mobilizational tool, you are winning. And so don't feel insulted when they insult the impact of your tools today.
Ooh.
Because the insult is proportional to the fear. Why would someone insult your tools if it doesn't hurt them? Why should I feel insulted that Trump kicked me out of America if I know that it hurt him? You see, it is not your defeat, it is your victory. And so, but you must understand as the utilizer, the user of your social media, the limitations of it. We knew that 10,000 pamphlets will not get 10,000 people on the streets. You've got to do other things as well. And so we always used to have 3 circles that we'd ask ourselves. Have we moved our zone of control? The people that we can directly speak to. Have we given the people in our zone of control a narrative and a message and an action point that they can move the second zone, the zone of influence? Are we influencing the opinion makers of society to carry our message further? Or is our message so obscure, so violent, so unpalatable that they don't even want to repeat it? You see, so what you say to your zone of control, your activists, is here's the message, here's the call, here's the action, here's the date, here's the place. They carry it to the zone of influence. So that now the commentators are speaking about it.
Right.
Who make influence. And they say, oh, did you hear? This group is going to march today. There's your message going out. They say that the government isn't listening. There's your message going out. Then the zone of influence mobilizes your third zone, the zone of inspiration. That's when it reaches the ordinary masses. And the ordinary masses, did you hear? They are saying what we are feeling. There's no services coming. Why is my clinic closed? Maybe they're speaking the truth. Let's go to the march. Because my child was ill last week, the clinic wasn't working, and the government isn't listening, and these people are saying, this is it. And so what has happened is, if you are only happy to speak to your zone of control without knock-on effects on influence and inspiration, you are doing the political equivalent of speaking in an echo chamber. And we knew in the 1980s that when our pamphlet was discussed at the family dinner, we had entered the zone of influence. And when they as a family decided to tell their other family to come to the march, we were in the zone of, we were inspiring them.
And I would say that social media, people who have platforms on social media, they would go under the influence, right? Zone of influence, where they can amplify basically the message that comes from the zone of control towards the zone of inspiration.
Absolutely.
And
I think you've got the lesson.
Yeah. And I think, so you're saying that different people with different skill and different resources have different roles to play.
Absolutely.
Basically.
That is what a struggle is about. It is harnessing the different creative capabilities. And even, I would say, the different eccentricities.
Okay.
Of different people. Sometimes you don't like that guy's style, he's arrogant. But his arrogance works for him. There's a market for his arrogance. And so you don't say, I don't speak to him because he's arrogant. You say, hey brother, if you are so influential, how will you say this to your people? You see, what you've done is you've mobilized his eccentricity.
Love it.
So leadership is managing the different character, behavior, and eccentricities of people in the zone of influence. because you don't want to cut their voice, you want to direct their voice.
Oh, that is very, very powerful. And I just feel like that comes to our next thing that I really want to talk to you about with this thing is, you said if you don't like that person because he's arrogant, right? This comes to the topic of infighting between, it's the infighting. Look, the Dutch did one thing very, very good. They learned from the Roman Empire, divide et impera. They divided Indonesia into three subclasses: the Europeans, the whites, the Chinese, the Indians, and then the Indonesians. They did that for South Africa as well, with the Indians as well, and the blacks and the whites, and so forth and so forth. Well, right now, I feel that any movement or any zone of influence or zone of inspiration that we're trying to do, the infighting is just massive.
And also, like you mentioned earlier, like when somebody insults the tools, right? Assuming that the government insult the tool, then that means it's working, they're insecure. But actually what I often find in Indonesia, and this is from my experience, the ones who are insulting the tools are actually not the government. They're actually fellow coalition or maybe a more conservative types of activists that are not that familiar with, social media and things like that. And so it does create like this tension, like Andovi mentioned, like the infighting. Actually, that is very, very much discouraging for a lot of people, and me myself, honestly.
Right. So how do you deal with that?
So any activist, and I'm using it metaphorically,
got it,
not literally.
Yeah.
Any activist has to fight with a double-edged sword.
Interesting.
Okay.
The one edge has to manage the battles inside, and the other one the battles outside. You see, politics isn't for sissies. And you may think...
I love that.
You may think...
I love that.
You may think that you are all good and so forth, and therefore your hands must always be clean, and I'm not going to fight my fellow people. If you are so good, is it worth fighting for? If everything you stand for will improve Indonesia significantly, is that not your sacrifice that you make? So you've always got to keep half an eye inside and 1.5 eyes outside. You've got to have half an eye watching your back and the others watching the front. So you've got to, but the way you fight inside is different to the way you fight outside. You've got to have the tools. The inside sword is one of persuasion, one of coalition building, one of inclusion, one of seducing them into a coalition. And you must have the generosity to say, you don't have to lose your identity, brother. I'm not trying to take you over. You can remain the movement for good, if that's your name. You can remain that. But so we'll form a coalition for you. And that's what we did in South Africa in 1980. We needed all hands on deck for the final assault on apartheid. So we formed the United Democratic Front.
Yeah.
So we as Muslims in the call of Islam could join, and we could be with the South African Council of Churches, and we could be with the South African Communist Party, and we could be with the Liberal Union. All of us have different identities and ideologies, but we all had one objective: to defeat apartheid. So we all say, let's get onto the train at the one terminus. But we know that as this train moves, the liberals will fall off at the 5th station. But we need them on, because as we pull out of it, other liberals won't shoot it because they don't want to hurt their own people. Then we say, let's move on. The communists will fall off at the 10th station.
I see.
But as we move on, while we're riding that 10 stations, no left person will shoot us because their comrades are in there. Let's move on. And when it comes to sensitive stuff, about that's sensitive to Muslims, we'll get off at this station. But we are all in there as long as we can pray there and as long as we can speak out.
Yeah.
So you see, the art of coalition building is absolutely crucial. And that is why I, for example, showed that vision that Nelson Mandela guided us with about how strategically you can work together. When in doubt, include everyone who is against apartheid, everyone who is against the evil in society must get onto that train. On that train, they can either get off or you can persuade each other. You don't go in the train with your highest common factor. I'll only eat caviar on this train. You say, no, listen.
No.
Lowest common denominator.
We'll all eat sandwiches. It will be halal, and it will be nice, and there will be vegetarian for them, and there will be this for them, and so forth. Coalitions are built on the lowest common factor, on the lowest common denominator, not the highest common factor. Because it's the highest common factor that divides everybody. But it's the lowest common denominator that is the glue for everybody. So you've got to go out and say, no, we're not going to fight you. But join us. If we all agree these are the 5 core messages. Let's not worry about whether it's a socialist society or a capitalist. We'll sort that out. First, win power, then you decide how to use power. But let us all agree that these are the common denominators to win power.
Right. Wow.
Do you have anything else?
I'm just.
It hits hard.
Yeah,
Huh?
it hits hard.
For you.
Yeah. If it hits hard for me. Yeah. Because there's a lot of context with what happened in Indonesia last year and everything.
Do you want to talk about that?
I mean, yes, but it's gonna go into another thing.
Yep.
No, but thank you.
Right. I think a lot of people would want to hear about you have an excellent question about that earlier.
Yeah, actually,
you should ask.
I have a this is a very stupid question.
No, yeah.
Yeah, but how did you and Mandela in prison? How did you guys How are you? How was it? It's a very simple question, but
well, this
how
was
it?
This is much more toned down. When Andovi told me the question, it was much more interesting.
I'm being a diplomat. Tell the truth gently. Tell the truth gently. That's that.
No. So Mandela and I didn't spend much time together in prison because he was with the treason trialists.
Yes.
And I was a political detainee. So they separated us. But one morning, just after Fajr, the warden came and said, "Get dressed. You're going to the hospital." I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm not sick." He said, "Just get dressed and go and come with me."
Okay.
So I did that. We walked through the jail, long corridors, opening gates and so forth. And we come to the waiting room of the hospital and he opens it and says, "Go in there. And if anyone speaks to you, don't talk loudly."
Okay.
And I go and the waiting room is completely empty. A few minutes later, the other door opens and in walks this tall, grey-haired gentleman. And you remember Mandela's pictures were banned. So we only had a round-faced, black-haired boxer type photo that we had seen of Nelson Mandela.
Right.
But I knew by the way he carried himself, this is him.
Okay.
I said, "Madiba, is that you?" And he says, "Yeah, Ebrahim. I've heard a lot about you." And I was amazed. How did this man hear about me?
Yeah.
He says, "You are doing very interesting stuff with the Muslim community." You know, in other countries, Muslims go one side and they separate from us. You have actually brought Muslims into the struggle. And he wanted to know how we did that. And he said, it is so good for us to feel that Muslims like you are with us. And that was the beginning of a long friendship with Nelson Mandela. And so he was in prison already at that time for about 25, 26 years.
Wow.
And he got a projector. I don't know if you know what a projector is. It's that machine with big wheels. And he had one like that. And he said, and he asked me about the other people in prison with me. And I said, "Look, there are 12-year-old, 10-year-old students who are with me, and I have to spend a lot of time." He says, "I will send you my projector with my films every Saturday night, and you play it for them." And so we watched, and we thought we were going to see Police Academy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And instead what we're watching is political documentaries that constituted how Nelson Mandela was preparing for presidency. Because he was learning, even in prison at that time, how to be a leader. And so when he came out, I showed you a picture of me taking him to the grave of Tuan Guru. Because he wanted to pay respect for those who fought colonialism then. He went to address the Jumu'ah at the Owal Mosque because he wanted, and the Thursday night he went to a Hindu temple, the Friday night he went to a Jewish synagogue, on Sunday he went to his church in Soweto. That was Nelson Mandela, the master of that gesture. And then, so I was honored to take him to some of those places. And then he asked me to accompany him as an advisor on his visit through Africa. I mean, we did 14 countries in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I met Gaddafi on that trip. I met Mubarak on that trip.
Wow.
I was there when the FLN was marching in Algeria.
Wow.
2 days of public holidays in Nigeria. I met the ANC leadership with him in Lusaka. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing traveling with Nelson Mandela for 3 weeks. Just 5 of us. And when we came to Lusaka, Kenneth Kaunda gave us his jet to go to Luanda. When we came to Luanda, Dos Santos gave us a jumbo jet to take us to Nigeria. That was the way. Gaddafi gave us each a Persian carpet. We had to, at the end of the day, with all the gifts, have a separate plane to carry all. I mean, that's just the life. When every 12 days before Christmas, Nelson Mandela would ask me to go with him through Cape Town and to help different children. 1 year it was children's hospitals that we have Christmas parties for. And he'd bring sweets and cool drinks and chips and all of those and gifts for the children. The next year we'll visit orphanages. I mean, it has just been one of the amazing privileges. Just imagine, 300 years ago, my ancestors leave Indonesia as slaves and as exiles. 300 years later, the child of that has the privilege probably to live and to be a friend of one of the most magnificent human beings that Allah has created.
Wow.
I mean, that's the privilege of living in a dangerous time.
Wow.
That is the privilege of living in a dangerous time. I need to ask you, like, what, if you have to name like 1 or 2 things that you learned most from Nelson Mandela, what would it be?
It's a hard lesson. Nelson Mandela never used the word I.
Oh.
He used we, but not the royal we, the collective we. Because you see, when you grow up in a time of danger, to claim something great is to ask to be put in prison or to be shot or to be exiled. And therefore, the collective we was your safe space. Because before they accuse you of being the mastermind of this campaign, they first ask you, tell us who's the we. And we say, no, it's the executive. It's me and my comrades. You see, so, but it's also a sign of enormous humility. Because your ego never takes over. You know, and why this is important for me is because it resonates with my understanding of Islam.
Okay.
Because you have to navigate leadership between 2 hadith, 2 sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one is when 2 or more of you go on a journey, the first thing you do is elect an Amir. No venture must be without leadership. It's a responsibility. Someone must do it. But the second one puts the limit on that. It says, whoever desires leadership must be denied leadership. Because if your ambition for leadership is so strong, your ego has already won. You are already forgetting the cause. So there are personalities in political leadership around whom campaigns are built. But that personality must be pushed up by the collective rather than imposing him or herself on the collective. It's the difference between democratic leadership and autocratic leadership. And unfortunately, that was lost within 100 years in Islam when the Umayyads went back to dynastic leadership. I believe the Prophet ﷺ did not have a son, so that leadership is not dynastic. But coming back to Nelson Mandela, a lot of the prophetic issues I see in him. And that's why I quoted him when he said, I'm just an ordinary person forced into leadership by extraordinary circumstances. Circumstances create a leader in you, not your ego in you creating a leader in you. And that's probably for me the greatest lesson that I try to abide by, that I've learned from Nelson Mandela that resonates with my faith.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
I think that is a great wrap up for our first segment. I think we're gonna go to the questions from the Weeboos now. Andovi.
Yeah, this is a question from...
we can ask this. This is interesting.
This is the first one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a question from Lukman Hakim 411. Lukman Hakim. Hi, Ibrahim. Wow. It's hi, sir. Wow. Not polite. Not polite. Lukman Hakim, not polite. Okay. Given Indonesia's increasingly strategic position in the Indo-Pacific, how do you interpret its dual approach of strengthening defense ties with the United States while simultaneously deepening economic engagement with China? In your view, does this reflect a deliberate hedging strategy to maintain strategic autonomy, or does it signal a more complex form of non-alignment adapted to today's multipolar world? Additionally, what lessons, if any, can be drawn from South Africa's own foreign policy, balancing in navigating great power competition while safeguarding national interests? Great question, Ibrahim, but not polite. Wow.
No, not a problem at all.
I mean, there's a lot to take in here. Please feel free to dissect that.
So the point that I want to make is that sometimes, and I'm going to use my definition of diplomacy as being the art of telling the truth gently. Sometimes Indonesia's posture bewilders us.
Oh, okay. Padino smiling like,
It bewilders us because a proud, dignified, civilizational country like Indonesia must project that on the global stage. That's what Pagdino did when he was ambassador in Washington. You have certain things you want from a country, but there are certain lines you don't cross that constitute the dignity of your country. And so hedging is absolutely the important strategy.
Okay.
You cannot be suicidal in your relationship with the United States, because even though it could be eclipsed as a superpower
by China,
it still has enormous superpowers that you need. So you can't.
Okay.
But you've got to pursue those with dignity. And therefore you've also got to take out an insurance policy with countries like China.
Right.
And therefore I think that the strategy is correct. I think the posture can be improved.
Okay.
Yep.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
The posture can be improved because Indonesia is not just a geopolitical middle power, strategic middle power. It is also the largest component of the Muslim Ummah.
Right. Right.
Indonesia has to compensate for the weakness of Palestine's neighbors.
Wow.
Because if you have the largest chunk of the Ummah here in Indonesia, speak with that strength. Compensate for the silence of the neighbors. Be on the board of peace if you must be, but be the voice that says, I'm not going to be affected by the immediate conflict there, therefore I can speak the truth. You will not destroy Gaza. You will not turn it into a Riviera. You will not take over more of the West Bank lands.
Yep.
The neighbors can't speak that because their countries are in the firing line of the Israeli missiles. Indonesia has to use its strength as the most populous Muslim community and its distance to be able to speak the truth gently, not wildly.
Right.
And so, and this therefore means that Indonesia must be more self-conscious of its ummatic role, its role in the global Muslim community.
Yeah. Right.
You see, if you are practicing democracy, human rights and freedom here and equality of women, etc., project that. Don't try to hide it here in the Pacific Rim. Project it and show that the world has not ended because men and women are equal. The Akhirah Dajjal is not coming because women choose how they dress. That it is not an abomination on the Ummah because people have choice.
Yes.
You see, you've got to project the harmony, the energy, the dynamism, the strength that comes from your interpretation of Islam. And that, I think, is absolutely crucial for Indonesia geopolitically as well as ummatically, how it does things.
Wow. I remember when we talked to Padino also said this. When we asked Padino, he says, what's our strength? And he said, we are the largest Muslim community and population in the world. And at that time, when Padino said it to us, like, okay, and once I got deep into it, you're right. We have such a strong, our posturing needs to improve.
And your self-confidence.
Yes.
Self-confidence,
Indonesians are not confident.
It's self-confidence.
Yes.
Your lungi does not have to stand back for the Arabian thobe. You cannot bend the knee to the kurta. In the Indo-Pak self-confidence, we all dress modestly, but we dress differently.
Right.
Yeah, that. And remember when we had like a podcast with Pak Anis, he said that our strength is not our diversity, but our unity, because the unity part we need to work for. And I think, like what you mentioned earlier, like it is something that we need to maybe project more instead of like, I know that a lot of Indonesians right now, like maybe the ones watching here, a lot of us are very much caught up in what's wrong with Indonesia, right?
Right.
That sometimes a lot of us forget that what is great about Indonesia, there are still some elements that is great about Indonesia. And I think what you just mentioned really highlights that. Yeah.
A very good friend of mine who writes minimalist poetry wrote a beautiful thing that has stayed with me, especially through difficult times. It's a very short poem. It's called a haiku, 2 lines.
Okay.
It says, forget who you are to remember who you were. It basically says you can be so caught up in who you are and your problems today and all of those kind of things that you forget who you were. How you became the superpower in the Ummah. How you arose from the challenges, how you survived the tsunami.
It's
more than aid and it's more than reconstruction. It's a spirit.
Yeah.
Because you see, that's the spirit. That is the Indonesian spirit. How you inspired the world at Bandung.
Yeah.
So that our leaders went back and said, we bloody destroying apartheid after this. That's how you inspired us with the Bandung spirit.
I mean, it was because of the Asia-Africa conference in Bandung that the CIA came and destroyed us. Let's cut that.
That's the point. Because they don't destroy what they don't fear.
Right. They were so scared. The Western powers were so scared of the Asian-African conference in Bandung.
Yes.
In 1965. That they were like, let's get some CIA people here. Okay, but I digress because then we're going to go to the CIA. But the next question.
Yeah.
From
I think this is good. Yeah.
From what is this name? Okay. Dendrobium macrophyllum. Is it a flower? I don't know. Is it a flower? Okay. What advice do you have for a teen who wants to make a difference but doesn't know if they should go into politics? Or if they can do more good from the outside? Advice for our teens.
You see, people who say, I want to go into politics, want to run before they can crawl.
Ooh.
You see, you don't decide to go into politics. Politics
Decide for you.
decides for you.
Yeah.
Do what you are good at.
Okay.
It may be
Yeah.
that one of you
Yeah.
are doing so well on your podcast, so influential, making so much sense. And all you want to do is to do your podcast. What's up,
Yeah.
Indonesia?
Yes.
That's all you want to do.
Yeah.
That's how you started off. But you become so good at it that people say, no man, that guy must come and speak at our rally.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Then when you speak at that rally
Huh.
and they hear Abigail,
yeah.
then they say, no, you know what? We need more women like that in this institution. Then they see your performance, that you're honest, you're competent, you're trustworthy. Then they say, no. The two of them for president.
Wow. I mean,
no.
Do you see how it works?
Yeah.
But someone who says, president, hasn't crawled, then hasn't walked, then hasn't jogged, but wants to do the sprint. So I would say, take the sequential route.
Got it.
Politics is a sequence. You can't decide always where you want to end, which position you want. But you can decide what influence you want.
Right. I think that's a really good advice.
that's a great advice.
Dendrobium macrophyllum.
Yeah. Whoever this guy is or girl. Okay, last question.
Last question, Andovi, you choose.
Okay, I'm gonna from Neo.Narmada. Recently, there has been cases of activists in Indonesia being attacked. For example, Andri Yunus was sprayed by acid on his body and his face. Based on your experience advocating against the apartheid government in South Africa, what's the most important thing an activist should do to protect themselves? Now, this is a very hot topic in Indonesia right now.
An activist must never ask people to do what they won't do. That's the first rule of thumb. If it is dangerous for you, it's dangerous for people. And therefore, if you can't persuade your mother to march with you, you are probably not really creating the narrative that will persuade her. Secondly, courage isn't the opposite of cowardice. The opposite of cowardice is recklessness. So, courage is to know what is reckless and to reject it, and to know what is cowardice and to seduce people out of their fear. So, we always said, take people from where they are. The Prophet ﷺ did not ask for an uprising in Mecca because they were too few, too vulnerable, too fragile. He was not a coward when he sent Jafar to Abyssinia in case they got wiped out in Mecca. But he understood the need to build alliances, and he hit an alliance with the people of Medina. When that alliance was ready, he did the hijrah. It wasn't a runaway. He did the hijrah. He went to Medina. And when he was in Medina, he first united everyone with a set of ideas called the Constitution of Medina. And once he had that in place, he was ready for the Battle of Badr. So again, I'm saying we've got to calibrate what it is that we are asking people to do. But you don't just calibrate it with your own strength in mind. You also calibrate it with the strength of the opposition in mind. What are the red lines the opposition are prepared to cross?
Yep.
Because if they cross that red line too often, you go into a whole generation of fear. It took us from the massacre of Sharpeville in 1961. It took us right up till 1970s to regain our self-confidence and courage again, because we went into a decade of silence, because people were still horrified. They massacred us at Sharpeville. They jailed Mandela. They kicked the others out. You don't want fear.
I see.
And so when I say you've got to have an approach of militant non-violence, you've got to be creative. Sometimes the best protest is in music. Sometimes the best protest is in festivals where you celebrate your humanity. Because when you celebrate your humanity and your human rights, you shake the edifice of the anti-human rights people. And so we've got to be absolutely creative. The jokes in your podcasts.
Which is very good. Very good.
Very good.
Yeah, very good.
It makes people laugh. But they laugh their fear away. They get inspired. So don't underestimate. You don't have to be angry to be right.
Right.
Sometimes the happiest people are the angry people. They turn their anger into jokes. That's why comedians become the big social commentators.
I agree. I
So
absolutely
the
agree.
point of the matter is use all the tools, not just a few of it. And so have a response ready. How do you turn the person who was acid attacked into a symbol not of defeat, but of victory? And that is what Iran is able to do so well. Every death is a martyrdom, not a victory to the USA.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's in the zone of tactics and strategies that we've got to get right. How do we not expose? And so we always at the front line of marshals in our marches, so that we could know when to stop the exposure of our people and when to manage the anger of our activists.
It's almost like there's this element of very, very necessary cultural war, like PR war, actually. Yeah, that is very, very strategic. And how I like what you said. I think a lot of us forget that when we talk about activism, we think about, like demonstration and things like that. But at the core of it, it's about how do we diminish fear from people and inspire them instead. And I think, that's very well put. Yeah,
it's very well put. Wow. I mean, thank you so much. Before we leave today, there's a very important question.
This is the trick question.
Yeah, this is
the most difficult
Padino's
question.
Yeah, this is Padino's question. Again,
And listen, I'm saying this before you ask the question.
yeah.
I thought he was my friend.
I do think you need to use your diplomatic skill to answer this to the best of your ability.
Yes, speak truth with elegance.
Great.
With gentleness.
With gentleness. Okay, let's go. Pa Ibrahim, if you work at a barber today, and Donald Trump comes to your shop to cut his hair, what would you do? That's the question. It's not my question. So if you were at a barber today, Ibrahim's barbershop, Ibrahim's Cuts, or whatever the name is, and Trump comes in, it's like, hello, Ibrahim, my gorgeous hair needs some cutting. It's long, it's gorgeous, it's big, it's very big. China. What would you do? What would you?
I think that question, humorous as it is,
Yes.
is at the core of who we are as humans.
Oh.
I've had to sit in a cabinet with the last apartheid minister of police as my premier. I had to laugh at his jokes.
Oh.
For 3 years, I had to sit in a cabinet with him. But what kept me going was two things. My bigger objective, to get services, because I was in charge of the biggest budget in health and welfare. I had to get services out to black people. And secondly, my humanity. I had to curb my anger. We have a saying in South Africa, in the vernacular languages, that says, your anger is hot, but it cannot cook.
Okay.
Your
I like
anger
that.
is hot, but it cannot cook. If your anger cannot cook something wonderful, manage it.
Oh, wow.
And so I would be very tempted if he asked me to give him a hot towel shave. What would I do with that blade when I shave to his jugular?
Yep.
But my superior morality will stop me from slicing. Because I represent a profession that is noble and enduring. And you see, if the trust in a barber is broken, who will go and shave at a barber that puts a sharp instrument in the hands of the barber? You destroy the trust in an entire profession. And so your anger may be hot, but it does not cook.
But does it cook? It has immense meme potential. I'm just saying. But okay. But what hairstyle would you give him?
I think he should admit, like I'm forced to admit, that my hair is graying and thinning. I'm thinking very hard. I'm at that stage. When does it become necessary to just shave everything off?
So
I think Donald Trump has a
body? Wow, Donald Trump has a body.
I think Donald Trump is pushing back against his balding status. He's trying to comb his hair in all different styles to cover
very intricate hairstyle,
etc., etc. And maybe that is the character of a man who cannot face facts as it is, and who can't look in the mirror and just like what God has created. He's got to defy God even with his hairstyle. And so that is what gives the man a thin skin. That, going back to the earlier question, that is what hurts him so easily in the White House, that he has to declare the South African ambassador as persona non grata, because his skin is as thin as his hairline is receding.
Wow, and that is the best ending I can ever get to a podcast. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Thank you.
See you in our next episode.
Bye.